All right. Hey, everybody. Tonight we're going to be looking at a Jehovah's Witness doctrine taught by the Watchtower specifically, which is the governing organization for the Jehovah's Witnesses. And this is going to be answering the question of, is Jesus Michael the Archangel? Which is something that the Watchtower teaches. Now, I want to suggest two resources to you that if you're interested in learning more about Jehovah's Witnesses or how to engage with them. Two things I would recommend. Firstly is a New World Translation of the Bible. This is the Jehovah's Witness Bible. It is very similar, but it is not a Christian Bible, and there are a lot of reasons for that. There's no extra books or anything like that, but there are some major translation problems that were done to fit the Charles Taze Russell's doctrine better. So you can get one of those. They're really cheap. The next thing would be this book called, you can see there in the light, Reasoning from the Scriptures with Jehovah's Witnesses. This is a series of books. This was actually recommended to me by my buddy Soraya, who I have a video with him on the channel talking about his testimony coming out of Jehovah's Witnesses and the Watchtower into true faith in Jesus Christ. And he recommended this book, and it is really phenomenal in walking through Scripture. So this was actually a big part of my study for this tonight, and so I'm going to be pulling from it quite a bit. So if you're not familiar with it, Jehovah's Witnesses don't teach the same Jesus. And if we don't have the same Jesus, or if you have a counterfeit Jesus, then you have a Jesus that can't save. So we want to love our Jehovah's Witness friends and neighbors. And, you know, when they come to our door, which with COVID and stuff, all that's kind of been put on the down low a little bit. I actually have right here is a letter I got from a Jehovah's Witness, and we'll talk about that sometime soon for sure. But we need to love these people and treat them with respect. And the biggest thing I want to say is that if they ring your doorbell, it is a tremendous opportunity. Don't try to duke it out over doctrine with scriptures. And if you're not ready, invite them back. This was actually something that Soraya said in his video when he and I chatted. If you're not ready, say, hey, can you come back next Saturday or whatever time? He said they'll probably be really eager to come back because it saves them from having to knock on a bunch of random doors. You know, they have something they can kind of look forward to. So if you don't feel ready, take it and schedule an advanced appointment and give yourself a little bit of time, to do some more research into what it is that you really want to talk about. So they say that Jesus is actually Michael the Archangel. So Jesus in his spiritual form that existed for billions of years was Michael the Archangel. And then Michael the Archangel became Jesus as a human, lived as Jesus lived a normal human life and was crucified, did not have a bodily resurrection like we believe, like Protestant Christians would say that the Bible teaches, but rather was spiritually resurrected back as Michael the Archangel. So this is not in line with Orthodox Christianity by any means. And so what I want to do is I want to look at some scriptures to show you why they build this doctrine, and then I'm going to give you some questions that maybe you can ask the witness in your next encounter. So we're really going to be in Daniel for the meat of this, and then we're going to look at a couple of other scriptures, and I'm going to try to keep it brief to help explain, to help shed light on why Jesus cannot be Michael the Archangel. So let's look at what the Watchtower teaches first. Now, this is the ESV. I don't have the New World Translation in Logos. I did a quick search. I don't think it's available. But this is not a place where there's much tension in the New World Translation versus other modern translations. So I'm not super worried about it for now, for the time being. There are other passages like John 1:1 that the difference in translations is really, really critical. I don't think this is one of those places. Okay, but over here in Daniel chapter 10, we see in verse 13, it says, the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days, but Michael, one of the chief princes, and that chief princes is really key to this doctrine, their doctrine here, came to help me, for I was left there with the kings of Persia. And then in Daniel chapter 10, verses 21, it says, but I will tell you what is inscribed in the book of truth. There is no one who contends by my side against these except Michael, your prince. And then we'll look at one more in Daniel, down to Daniel, tongue twister, chapter 12. It says, at that time shall arise, and I think New World Translation and some other translations say stood up, shall arise Michael, the great prince, who has charge of your people, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never has been seen. There was a nation, never has been since, excuse me, there was a nation till that time. But at that time, your people shall be delivered, everyone whose name shall be found written in the book. So this word right here, shall arise or stood up in their translation, is key, saying that this is talking about Michael's enthronement or Jesus's enthronement in their eyes. So that's kind of a high level. Now, there's some other things. There's another text that talks about Jesus coming down with the voice of an archangel and God's trumpet. I'm not going to talk about that tonight, but that's another text that they would go to and that we can go to and ask some good questions about to get them to question this doctrine and the Watchtower's reasoning here a little bit. So let's jump back and take a closer look. Daniel 10 verses 13. Oh, went too fast. All right. So what we would ask at this point, because they're going to go through this, if you ask them, hey, can we talk about Jesus being Michael the Archangel? This is where they're going to go. And what you could say, or what you would ask them, again, kindly, the point is not, there are videos out there on YouTube, it'll be like, Jehovah's Witness didn't know whose door they were knocking on. And it's just these unloving, uncaring conversations. And that is not what we're going for here. That's not what we want to do. So do this in kindness, in gentleness, and respect, as it says in 1 Peter. So they're going to go to these verses that we just looked at as their big ones. And you're going to let them go through. You're going to listen to what they have to say, be respectful and all that. But now you have an opportunity to ask some questions. And the question would be, is Jesus ever explicitly named in any of these passages in Daniel? The answer, of course, is no. But likely what they will do is they will go back to Daniel 10:13 and say that he was a chief prince. Now, this might already be jumping out at you now that we're putting a particular emphasis here. Maybe it didn't stand out so much as we were reading through it. But the key word here, or the key part of this verse, is one of the chief princes. Okay. Jesus is unique, and we're going to go to John 3 in just a minute and look at that. This clearly says that Michael is one of the chief princes. So there's an equality here, a same standing that Jesus does not have. So, one of the chief princes is the kind of deciding factor here, or is the distinguishing part of this verse. Now, what I want to do here next, or what I would suggest that you do to make a further distinction, is actually jump to Hebrews 1:5. No, hang on. Before we go to Hebrews 1:5, let's go to Revelation 9:16. So one of the chief princes, they're saying that Michael, that is 19:16, excuse me. I lost it. 19:16. Here we go. On his robes, this is talking about Jesus, on his robes and on his thigh, he has a name written, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. This is an elevated title specific to Jesus that is not a title on equal standing where Michael is described as one of the chief princes, as we saw back in Daniel. Next, I want to go to John to further distinguish Jesus. John 3:16, you are all familiar with it. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, so that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have an eternal life. So the word here only is really the important factor. It means unique. And again, as we have looked at already, one of the chief princes, and the chief princes, as Michael is described, is not a unique title that's given in Daniel. And then we looked at Revelation, and we see how Jesus is called King of Kings, Lord of Lords. He is clearly elevated above all. Now, the last verse I want to bring up is Hebrews 1:5. For to which of the angels did God ever say, "You are my son; today I have begotten you"? So I should have used that or phrased that as quick. You are my son; today I have begotten you. So that's a question. That's saying, God never says that. That's the way this is written. For to which of the angels did God ever say? Pointing out that God never says this. God never calls an angel son. Okay, but he clearly calls Jesus son in John 3:16. For God so gave his son, his only son, his unique son, his son who is King of Kings, Lord of Lords. These are titles that are not prescribed to Michael the Archangel. These are titles that are not prescribed to one of the chief princes. You can see that God here never calls an angel my son. He doesn't do it. He doesn't do it. So this is where you would put the question back to them per se. You would come back to them and say, "Hey, can you help me? How can Michael be Jesus if God never calls an angel his son? Okay, how can Jesus or Michael be? How can Jesus be one of the chief princes when Revelations 19 clearly calls Jesus King of Kings, Lord of Lords?" So there's more we can go into. Absolutely. But that's really what I want to give you tonight. This is just a starting point. Please get some resources, get some books like this, Reasoning from the Scriptures with Jehovah's Witnesses. They also have one for Mormons and Catholics. Get your own copy of the New World Translation and start there. And just keep it on yourself so you're a little bit prepared when they come. And remember, if you're not prepared, ask if there's a time they can come back, next Saturday or 2 weeks from now or something like that. They would love to do so. This is Tim. My name's Tim. This is Conversations with Christians. And if you guys have any questions, I'd be love to